You do not fear a foreign army on your own soil. For generations, Rome believed in one unbreakable truth: legions win wars. Not kings. Not mercenaries. Not brilliant individuals. Legions. 8,000 men in disciplined ranks. Heavy shields locked edge to edge. Pilum raised. Gladius ready. Advance. Push. Break the enemy line. Win. It worked against the Samnites. It crushed Pyrrhus. It expanded Rome from a city-state into the master of Italy. Carthage? Carthage was a merchant empire. Golden ships. Not iron discipline. Even after Hannibal crossed the Alps in 218 BCE with perhaps 50,000 men and a handful of elephants, Rome clung to the rule. You let him march. You shadow him. You gather more legions. And when you choose the ground, you crush him. At Trebia, Rome lost. At Lake Trasimene, Rome lost again, 15,000 dead in a single morning. But those were accidents. Ambushes. Unfortunate terrain. The rule still stood. Until 216 BCE. Until Cannae. Until one day when Rome realized the rule was a lie. You are Lucius Aemilius Paulus. I'm 50 years old. A veteran of earlier wars. A man who understands discipline, hierarchy, and Roman pride. You are not reckless. That is your colleague's role. Rome elects 2 consuls each year. In 216 BCE, you shared command with Gaius Terentius Varro, a populist, aggressive, eager for glory. He promises a decisive victory. The Senate gives him what he wants. 8 legions. Approximately 80,000 infantry. Nearly 6,000 cavalry. The largest army Rome has ever fielded. Think about that number. 80,000 men. That is not a field army. That is a nation in armor. Across the plain near the small Apulian village of Cannae stands Hannibal Barca. 31 years old when he crossed the Alps. Now hardened by 2 years of campaigning in Italy. He commands perhaps 40,000 infantry and 10,000 cavalry. Half your infantry strength. But more cavalry. Far more. You know the wind carries dust across the plain. You know the river Aufidus flows at your back. You know Varro will command on the day of battle. And you know Hannibal wants you here. So why fight? Because Rome cannot retreat again. Because Italian allies are wavering. Because every day Hannibal marches unpunished, Rome looks weaker. If you crush him here, you end the nightmare. If you fail, you step into position at dawn on August 2nd, 216 BCE. The largest Roman army ever assembled begins to advance. The sun rises behind you. Dust blows into Roman faces. Hannibal chose this field carefully. You deploy deep. Unusually deep. Instead of the traditional checkerboard formation, Varro stacks the maniples tightly, dense columns meant to punch through Hannibal's center by sheer mass. 80,000 men compress into a human battering ram. Across from you, Hannibal forms his line in a strange shape. His center, Gauls and Iberians, bulges outward in a convex arc. His African infantry anchored both flanks, slightly refusing back. His cavalry waits on the wings. It looks fragile. It looks breakable. The Roman line advances. 8,000 shields scrape forward. 10,000. 20,000. The earth shakes beneath synchronized sandals. Contact. The Roman front crashes into the bulging Carthaginian center. Steel rings. Pilum thuds into shields. Men scream. Dust rises so thick you taste it. The Roman mass pushes forward. 100 yards. 200. 300. The Carthaginian center bends. It bends more. It begins to collapse inward, exactly as Hannibal planned. You see it. The bulge straightens. Then it curves the other way. Convex becomes concave. Your men surge forward, pressing into what feels like victory. But they are walking into a bowl. On the Roman right, Hannibal's Numidian cavalry harass but delay. On the Roman left, his heavy Spanish and Gallic horse smashed into Roman cavalry. 5,000 horsemen collide. Shields shatter. Horses scream. Dust explodes upward. Within minutes, the Roman cavalry breaks. They flee. Hannibal's horsemen do not pursue far. They wheel. They gallop behind the Roman infantry. You feel the shift before you see it. The African infantry on Hannibal's flanks pivot inward. Perfect discipline. Long spears angled down. They attack the Roman sides. The bowl closes. Now imagine standing inside that mass. You cannot lift your sword properly. You cannot turn. You cannot see the sky. 80,000 men compressed into tightening space. The Carthaginian cavalry strikes from behind. You are surrounded. Completely. 1,000 yards across. 800. 500. The ring tightens. Men suffocate standing up. They cannot fall because bodies hold them upright. You order resistance. You rally where you can. You fight on foot after your horse is killed beneath you. A messenger urges you to flee. You refuse. Hannibal does not rush the slaughter. He compresses. Hour after hour. Roman soldiers die not in heroic duels, but crushed, stabbed, unable to move. By midday, the killing becomes mechanical. 6,000 die every hour. Pause on that number. 6,000 per hour. By late afternoon, between 50,000 and 70,000 Romans lie dead. Consul Lucius Aemilius Paulus fell among them, struck down fighting on foot. Varro escapes with perhaps 10,000 survivors. Hannibal loses maybe 6,000 men. Rome loses an army. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage and sacrifice deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. As the sun sets over Cannae, the plain is silent except for flies. And Rome understands something terrifying. This was not luck. This was the design. News reaches Rome days later. 50,000 dead. 80 senators and former magistrates were killed. 2 consuls lost in a single campaign season. Panic grips the city. Women wail in the streets. Temples fill with desperate prayers. Allies defect. Capua, Rome's second largest city, joins Hannibal. What they didn't know was that Hannibal expected Rome to sue for peace. After Cannae, most Mediterranean powers would. But Rome does something unthinkable. It refuses. It refuses to ransom prisoners. It forbids public mourning beyond 30 days. It raises new legions from boys and slaves. And it changes strategy. No more pitched battles. Fabius Maximus's strategy, avoid, harass, delay, becomes doctrine. The true impact of Cannae wouldn't be understood until years later. Hannibal never again faces a Roman army of that size in open battle. Rome learns from the nightmare. And then it survives it. Lucius Aemilius Paulus died on that field at roughly 50 years old. A consul of the Republic. A father. A man who stayed when he could have fled. Around him lie perhaps 50,000 Roman citizens and allies. Entire generations erased in a single day. To this day, military academies study Cannae as the perfect double envelopment. A tactical masterpiece. Hannibal's name becomes synonymous with strategic genius. But for Rome, Cannae becomes something else. A scar. A lesson written in blood. Arrogance kills. Discipline alone is not enough. Adapt or perish. And because Rome adapts, because it absorbs horror without surrendering, Hannibal's greatest victory becomes, in time, Carthage's strategic failure. But none of that erases the men who died on that August day. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state, and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Lucius Aemilius Paulus and the 50,000 men who fell at Cannae do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.